We're in the section of Noach, page 128, chapter 11, verse 5. We were talking about the Tower of Babel and the concept that the people there were using their little bit of shared communication to try to give themselves an advantage and to perhaps make themselves so important that they would be the center of everything that would go from there on. And Vayered, and he descended. So we've talked about what the people were doing, and now we're going to talk about God's response. So God's response is separated out from what the people did, and it's going to shape events as they go forward. So we have this strong separation and then leading forward. So we have a munach, Vayered. Because of the people's tendency to introduce various beliefs and cults for the sake of security and independence, God tried to examine the reason for the insecurity, and he descended to the level of the people, as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. So, what I had said and what Dr. Seaman said seems to be a little bit at odds. He is talking about God separating himself out from his prior level to descend to see the people. And if we were talking about the way that he's got it written here, I would have thought that would have been more appropriate as a dargah, by saying that God is coming down to a different level. So I'm, I thought about this, and I see that God is separating himself from his previous way of handling things and from his previous intentions in order to try to understand here. So I see that there is a demarcation there, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure that exactly fits with the paragraph that I just read. Nonetheless, we will leave it stand, and it does still have validity to it. It's just a little bit more of a stretch than if it were a dargah that would have much better fitted the paragraph that I just read.
I just, out of curiosity, I'm going to pull an Alan for a second. The shape of the munach of Vayer, that God descends and then hangs out at this level with the people. I mean, that defines the shape of the munach, as it were. So I'm not challenging other dargah.
No,
I'm just saying it's how I visually how I see this. Sub-basement.
Also, I'm going to pull a picture. Whatever. But and a jumble at the same time. But Vayered, if you look at those nodes, not nodes, letters. Look at the yud. I'm going out of order. A yud. Then look at the vav. Then look at the resh and the dalet. Each letter is like a progression visually of the letter that came before. A yud is a little right, and God is making himself more manifest. So yud, and then a vav is an extended yud.
Yeah.
A resh is an extended vav.
Yeah.
And a dalet is an extended resh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is definitely a descending there from going from the, like God is like a central yitzhak and more gross by the time it's got to the people.
So wrong.
That's such a victory, I know.
Such a wrong.
Well, the word Torah, by the way, I'm standing on very good ground because the word Torah is even more of what I forget the tough for a second. Vav, resh is an extension of a vav. Hey, the same idea. Hey is a resh, an extended resh, and tav, picture is an extended hey. So, and that's all encompassing. You see, he doesn't even get it. Okay, isn't that beautiful? It's like planting a seed and it's growing, and you see it visually. Because what is your? Excuse me. What's my basis for it? Yoreh. What is yoreh? Yoreh makosh. The rain. What does rain do? It makes things grow. From a little yud, yud becomes a vav, vav becomes a resh, resh becomes a hey. The word itself is growing. Like rain makes things grow. Cool. Thank you, Victor. That's a Victor. I'm giving you the credit. Because I never say it's me, it'll be put down. I said Victor. Oh, Victor said it.
Thank you, Victor. Victor said that. Very, very well done, Victor.
If someone doesn't like your Torah, you say, oh, but the Rebbe said it. Oh, the Rebbe said it. When I say at least Goldstein said it, it's straight.
We will continue with number 2.
There we go.
So,
This is a picture too. Okay.
Hashem with a katon, so we're going to see a two-part interpretation to the way that we look at this word. Before causing another punishment for similar crimes, like the flood, God wanted to investigate the reason and the mentality for idol worship, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading word. So he is going to both try to give them the benefit of the doubt and yet judge them harshly. So we're accessing both midat adin and midat rachamim, perhaps, trying to understand intention before applying strict judgment. Lir'ot with a mercha, so this is likely connected to what's come from before, but mostly going to push us forward into what's going to go afterwards. Number 3, foreseeing. Before pronouncing any judgment, proof of guilt had to be factual, visual proof. Therefore, God made an attempt, foreseeing the cause of their insecurity, and identify their conditions as meant by the directional shape of the reading mark. And
not foreseeing as into foresee, right? For
no,
the preposition.
for
the purpose of
seeing.
For the
For the
purpose
purpose of seeing. So I will remind those people listening and those people here at the table that
As if we're not
when
listening.
we had anthropomorphized actions and brought them to the level of this is what God is doing, there is another way of looking at this. And the other way is that there is a perfect act, and that is what God does, and then there is an imperfect act or imperfect appendage, and that's what we do or what we have. So, for instance, so the Yad Hashem, this is the hand of God. What's a hand? A hand, in the perfect sense, is the ability to take an object and manipulate it to what it should be. So this is much more than we can do with a physical hand. And when we say Yad Hashem, the hand of God, we're talking about that perfect ability to take something and manipulate it into the ultimate form that it's supposed to take. We have a facsimile, something that is a lower projection of what that perfect thing should be, and that's what we have. So when we see that God is seeing, he not only is looking at the picture as it was and trying to just glean information from the visual, rather he is seeing with the full knowledge of not only what the picture looks like, but seeing the insecurities and seeing the emotional conditions at the time, because he can perceive all of those things. Seeing in the perfect sense is completely understanding a situation by knowing all of the aspects of it. So when God sees, he not only sees that this guy is holding a hammer and he's building a tower. This guy is holding a hammer because in his mind he wants it to be a projection of his power to control the universe. So he is not only seeing the physical picture, he's seeing the emotional background behind
So that way it
it.
is
So
sort of
when we see the word seeing, it is understanding in fullness everything that is there at the time. And while Dr. Seaman didn't say this explicitly, I think that's what he gets when he starts to introduce the word insecurity there. So I think we really have to take it in the sense of the divine aspect of seeing versus the human aspect of seeing. And we will go on. Et ha'ir, with the city, with a tipcha. So this is going to bring us backwards and pause slightly afterwards, but it's going to complete the phrase. Number 4, did they expect to get a satisfactory answer to their problems with the city when it was constructed, as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark? So he is interpreting this bitmiha as a question. The city as being something that is inadequate in order to get them the goal that they truly are looking for. So when he sees the mixture of intentions together with the inadequacy of what they're actually building, God sees that this is going to be an inelegant solution to what the people are trying to achieve, and ultimately they will not get what they are aiming for. And the city, Hata'ir, Tipcha, pause, is separated out from the Et HaMigdal, and with the tower, with the stabilizing Et Nachta, with the new city and with the tower, will they be able to achieve peace of mind, as stressed by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark? So again, this is read as a question, as a statement of, is that really what's going to happen? So they're expecting stability from this tower, from the ability to be at the level of the heavens and get some control there, and yet it's obviously not what they're going to achieve. So we read it with the aspect of this being a question that truly is obviously not going to come to what the people are expecting from it. It is a rhetorical question. Asher, that, lightly connected to what's come from before, but mostly moving us forward into what's going to go afterwards, with the mercha, that, number 6. Did they not learn yet a lesson from the memorable experience of the flood? At that time, the people who experimented that they should not look to be independent from heaven caused and experienced the great tragedy as shown by the directional shape of the reading mark. So they are lightly connected to the sin that was made at the time of the flood, but mostly they're going to sweep forward into what they are going to create as a fate for themselves. Banu, they built, with a tipcha, closing the phrase and looking backwards at what had come from before. Before the flood, the people wanted to control life. So one of the sins before the flood was sexual immorality and the mixture of species, or the attempt to mix species. So in that sense, they were trying to control nature and life. Before the flood, people wanted to control life. Now they built a structure to enter and control heaven. So they built a tower into as high as they could, so that they could reach to heaven and perhaps control things there, and events on earth, as expressed by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So Ha'ir, the city, is an attempt to control things on earth. The Et HaMigdal, and the tower is an attempt to control things in heaven as well. So they have built something with both of those intentions. This closes the phrase and has a pause afterward. So the children, B'nai, is both separated out from what's come from before, but also because it's a merchad, lightly connected. So again, we've had this many, many times, where we separate something out and yet draw a connection as well, because the people are trying to both separate themselves out from the natural order, and yet they're trying to build this construction. Number 8, they think they matured with experience and would lead an independent life, but they are still children of creation who like to play with larger objectives than with small toys, as reflected by the directional shape of the reading mark. So they are children of who they were created to be. They are trying to link their new construction to their ability to control these things. But what it is going to do going forward is going to, again, determine their fate. Ha'adam, the man, with the stabilizing sof pasuk. The man never matured since his creation. His continuous drive is still a manifestation of the tree of knowledge, instigated by the serpent and the Satan. So, why do we introduce the term Adam? When we introduce the term Adam, we're not talking about, so why didn't we say ha'anashim, the people? Why do we say ha'adam? Because when we introduce Adam, we have to go back to Adam Harishon. We have to go back to the intentions and failures of the first man. So when we talk about the man, using that word, we always have to see if there is a connection to that. And what we're saying is the people who built the tower are still not beyond the sin that the first man did, putting his own objectives and worth above the worth of God's word and God's commandments. So Adam Harishon is given two conflicting directives. He's told that he has to be master of everything on earth, and yet he is told that he has to follow God's directives, that you don't eat from these particular trees. So he is given two conflicting tasks when he comes up to the tree. Does he follow God's word, that he doesn't eat from the tree? Or does he follow God's other word, which says he is the pinnacle of creation, he is the ultimate thing, and he is supposed to take control of things? So by choosing his own objectives over the following of what God had told him, that's where Adam makes his choice, puts his roots. And it's not that he is doing something wrong. He's following a directive. Your fear is going to be over everything that's on the earth. You're going to be the master of everything. So he chooses to make that his priority, and ultimately has to suffer the consequence of making that priority. Similarly, the people of this generation are choosing their own control as the ultimate directive, the ultimate thing that they're going to follow, and hence they follow the teachings of either the Nachash or the Satan, the idea that they are whispered at and told that their own importance trumps everything, and they have to follow that.
Okay. I've been tying what you said. If you're very sensitive to the language, which Victor is, yeah.
Victor, another one for
another
you.
Victor.
Very good.
Well, it's really me, but I'll give Victor. Right? I guess I got that one. Now you raise, fitting what you just said, that this man has this sort of like a catch-22 that's following what's written. Is what was the command to man? To be redu v'keep shua, redu. So that echoes when God vayirei. Isn't that nice? Victor, right? Also, the Bnei Adam, maybe I'm pushing this one, but the Bnei Adam, the first thing I thought was not Adam Arisha, but it sounded almost like that Bnei Elohim, when it says, who are the two people? The Nephilim, but the children, the women are Benot Adam, and the men are Bnei Elohim, and it's like, who knows what's going on there, but that's what I thought of the first one. But the Vayirei is beautiful, right? Redu, because that's where Redu v'keep shua.
And we have another remark at the end of this pasuk. Although the man's enterprises did not coincide with the desire of God, he was proud of the brilliance of his creation. God did not hesitate to call those people children with an expression of love, admiration, and respect. Hanach kvodam v'ahavato. He put down their honor and his love for them. As the Gemara says, chutzpah, afilu klape klaya. From this we see that they had arrogance even towards the heavens. However, the masterwork of Noach, who built the ark with all of its specifications, was from the sphere of wisdom as an emanation of the tree of life. So
God wants
quite obviously we're accessing Kabbalah here. I tried to find the reference, but I am as yet not adept enough to to find exactly what he's bringing this down from. Nonetheless, when we see Noah following God's specifications in order to build an ark and to do exactly what God says, he is making that level of choice. And we see here that even though they are doing the wrong thing, they are doing the wrong thing with a sense of unity, and God respects that and still gives them respect for the fact that they have at least found unity.
That's why I say you can get rid of the Dora Hamahol, but you got rid of the Dora Hamahol.
And hence they still get the loving acronym and the brownie points and get to be called children.
Right. So because they always say, why did God wipe out that generation, the flood generation, and not because at least they had unity. But this reminds us of this classic story. I forget if it's about Soloveitchik or something. Some Rav who found his kid was child prodigy. Somebody was Soloveitchik playing checkers or something on chess on Yom Kippur. He calls him in, and he gets a wrong look from his father already, would set him in tears. And he just gives him that look. Doesn't say anything. Like, how dare you play chess on Yom Kippur or the Shabbos? Anyways, the son gets the message without from that look from the father. And as the kid is leaving, like with his head between his legs, the father says, "But did you at least win?" So it's very similar to that story.
So as we read through the pasuk, we're going to see that God is going to separate himself out from what happens on the ground. So we're going to see that there's a pause after God's name. We're going to see that Ha'ir, the city with its attempt to control things on the land, and the Migdal, the attempt to build a structure that would have some control over the heavens, again, are going to be separate entities. They're going to have an imposed pause in between them. And the fact that the people are building this is going to be separated out from the character aspects that it talks about them. So again, we're going to get a pause between Banu and Bnei Hadam. So we'll read through the sentence. Vayered ad Hashem lerot et ha'ir yet hamigdal asher banu Bnei Hadam. So again, when we overemphasize the pauses, we see some of the concepts that we tried to introduce. We are on page 129, Bereshit 11:6. Vayomer, and he said. So again, we've got a munach, so we're going to be strongly separated from what's come from before and move us into the new paradigm that's going to go afterwards. God saw the desires and the ambitions of the man were never satisfied. And he said that there must be a stop put to this situation in relation with the end of the sentence, as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. So even though God is giving them some mercy and some respect for what they have done, what they have achieved in terms of doing something together, he realizes that allowing them to continue to pursue this goal is not going to be healthy for them in the long run, and will eventually have to bring stronger judgment upon them. And hence, God separates out what's happened from before from what's going to happen afterwards.
From going unpunished to basically
from going unpunished, because if he doesn't introduce punishment here, he's going to allow them to go to a lower level where he will have to punish them more harshly. Hashem.
Being more harshly than mixing up their language.
Correct. So again, we see in both of these psukim that we're not using the word Elokim. We're not using God in the sense of judgment. We're using Yud Kei Vav Kei, God in the sense of mercy. So both times God is coming to try to introduce mercy here rather than to apply strict judgment. So he's going to go down and try and glean the intentions so that perhaps he can see something that is good out of it. And then even when he is going to introduce the punishment, he's going to say, I'm going to introduce this punishment now, because if I don't, then you're going to go to a lower level and I'm going to have to introduce a stronger punishment. You see Hashem with a katon, so again, a two-part motive here. Number two, God had established that man's desire to reach heaven would be only for the purpose of gaining control over the universe, as pointed out by the broad meaning of the reading mark. So, katon, in this sense, he is actually, Dr. Seaman is actually telling us that we're not looking for a double meaning here. We're looking at the word katon. Man is somebody who is small, and he is trying to do something that is beyond his station. So God is saying, Vayomer katon, I'm God and you're small. This is not yours to meddle in. So we don't, in fact, so we have rarely done this with the Perush, but we are taking the name of the note, katon, smallness, and we're using that as the way that we're going to interpret this word in this sense, rather than the two-part note with one thing higher than the other. And again, we certainly could have perhaps found something that would have satisfied that as well, but in this circumstance, we introduce the idea of the name of the note giving some actual meaning to the way that we have to interpret the word in this sense.
I think we should do that more often. By the way, as a nice counterpoint to God putting in their place saying you're katon, who do we know, I don't want to see, that didn't wait for God to say it, he knew on himself, he's such a tzaddik, to know that he's small. And he uses the word
Katon.
Katon Yaakov. Nice counterpoint? Yeah.
Excellent. Alan?
Maybe that's the part.
However, that word does not have a katona.
Isn't that, you know it? Really?
Yeah.
What does it have? It doesn't have because it's called katona.
As like English.
Whoa, we'll get to that.
No,
The Perush goes to what? To the end of the book of Bereshit, so that will be included.
Yeah.
Right. Will any of us be alive by then? Or at this rate? Sheldon will stop talking.
Surely. Number 3.
Don't call me Shirley. What movie?
With the Munach.
Make it then. Make it then. Or airplane.
So this is going to be separated out from what's come from before and lead us into what's going to go afterwards with a strong measure of separation. Number 3. The flood, despite its massive proportions, had failed to eradicate the source of evil, particularly when the Satan and other, I presume, innocents had survived. Surely no widespread death sentence was contemplated after the previous punishment, and the previous punishment had in essence failed, as shown by the shape of the reading mark.
Wait a minute.
So,
okay. Hain is is this the first Hain in Torah? Might be.
No, we did
that
not have.
Or
is it going to come right after this?
So
this
come
after this?
Because you know that you get the word's meaning from the verse.
Yeah.
Hain is a very interesting word. Also,
why is Hain an interesting word?
I'll tell you why. Well, according to because it's by Bilam also. I mean, that's much later on. You also have Hain there because Hain is something with math. Like a hay is 5 and 50. There's something with that. I forget what he said exactly. That it doesn't really. Well, what is it? Okay, I'm just getting you started.
I don't know.
So it's something that Hain doesn't really have a value on its own. Well, Hinei always shows smiha, sort of like surprise. But Hain, I have to look. It's something that it's not divisible by anything. Like 5 can't break down further. It's something again. It's a Hain. Oh, that's what it. I heard Rav Kahana say something about Hain Levadav.
Prime number.
Oh yeah, you're getting there. Sorry. Hain. What is it?
5 is, but 50 isn't.
No, Hain. I'm Levadav Yishkoin. He says in that context, because the word Hain there doesn't really add to the sentence. Am Levadav Yishkoin really says what he wants to say. So why do you use the Hain? This is Rav Kahana on that pasuk, yes. because Am Levadav Yishkoin is what he really wants to say. So because of the indivisible part thing, it's like a prime number. That's what Israel is. It's not. Okay, I gave you enough to sort of develop it. No, that's the gist of it. No, because hay is indivisible or something. It's can't be broken down further. In that way, the Jewish people it ties in with the idea of Am Levadav Yishkoin. It stands alone, like the way 5 is a prime number. It stands alone, something like that. That's why the word Hain is used in that pasuk. Because the Hain sort of mirrors what's trying to be said by the other part of the Pasuk, Amma Badad Yishkon.
So
And Hain in its very nature,
50 Nun is always seen as beyond nature. The same way that 8
Right.
is seen as beyond nature, 50 also has that sense.
that's what the Hay
But I
also-
don't see the connection
No,
of
it's
Hay.
more of
Or
the
Hay
Hay.
is not the first prime number. Hay is the third prime number.
But 5 and 50 are related. I'm something with the I don't know, whatever. Okay, you got the idea. Forget I answered it.
For further study. So we
Right.
have the word Hain with some mysterious and
Oh!
mystical features to it.
Look what I did. I didn't even notice that. Hain, Amma Badad Yishkon. Look what it is in this context. Hain, Echad. It's very parallel. You see what I'm saying? Amma Badad.
So
Something.
quite often in Torah you will see acts of